I feel like many eras in gaming can be defined by the genre that was most popular at that time. Like how in the present day we can say that battle royales without a doubt have become one of, if not the most popular types of games, and it's been that way for the past 3 or 4 years, maybe even longer. The early 2000s were largely dominated by first-person shooters, especially after Halo came out and completely changed gaming forever. However, knowing all this, I want to talk about an era in gaming that I don't see talked about a lot, but to me it was probably the most influential and best era, and that time period would be the early 2010s and the absolute abundance of survival games. With games like Minecraft and the Arma 2 mod entitled dayz, everyone was trying to hop on the bandwagon and rake in some of that success those two games had received, and from that, survival games had begun to spring up from everywhere, with all of them ranging very greatly in quality. Some were good, and some were not. There were some solid games like dayz standalone and even some great games like Minecraft and Rust. However, there are always going to be the greedy companies who just wanted to hop on a trend. And with that, we got disappointing games like Nether that had so much promise and could have truly been something amazing. In fact, Robokast did an amazing video on what happened with Nether and all the potential it had, so please go check out his video. But nonetheless, that seemed to be a running theme in this era of gaming, constantly throwing out games that had so much potential, but they would usually just get dropped by developers for many reasons, really. Now, when I say this, you probably think to yourself, well, that doesn't sound like a very great era in gaming, and I'm sure at face value it doesn't. But let me dig a little deeper into this to help you get a good idea as to why this era of gaming was so special. So, the first major survival game would without a doubt have to be Arma 2's dayz mod, and to put it simply, people loved this game because how deep and complex it was, and the community that surrounded it, in which they could make so many memories, whether it be through raids, clan wars, just making friends, all that kind of stuff. Now, albeit, I never played the dayz mod for Arma 2, that was far before my time really, and the game is pretty much dead now because of how old it is. It still basically kickstarted the survival genre though. The idea of teaming up with people in order to gather loot, make bases, acquire vehicles, and eventually become the top clan in your server was, and still is, a very interesting, potentially fun concept, and other developers definitely noted this. While eventually, yes, dayz would be releasing its own standalone game, people would and have argued that it is actually inferior to the original Arma 2 mod. Now, I can't give any opinions on that because I haven't played either of them, but it definitely shows that not everyone liked dayz standalone and the changes it made. But to be honest, it didn't really matter because standalone became insanely popular. For a while, it was one of the most popular games on YouTube, and it received a lot of players, with it still performing pretty well to this day actually. With both of these games, plus Minecraft, which while yes was popular and is technically a survival game, it doesn't really fit with the games we'll be discussing throughout this video, so I won't be bringing it up much. But nonetheless, these games would bring in a wave of new survival games from several different developers, all with different styles, usually. One of the most notable of these games is Rust, which is still insanely popular to this day, and honestly I can make a whole video talking about why Rust is an amazing game, and how it is honestly one of the best multiplayer games ever, but I'll save that for another time. However, where I'm going with this point is that these games all have something in common besides being survival games with multiplayer components. What they all had in common was that hundreds of thousands of people could meet, form groups, have wars, spend countless hours grinding and enjoying the game together, and because of this, people made friendships that might have lasted forever. Me and my friends have met tons of nice people and made friends with people on Rust, and we've also had our experience with the toxic and rude people. But the point I'm trying to make here is that these games allowed people to communicate and play with each other in a way no other game had allowed them to before, and for that these games will always hold a special place in everyone's heart. These games also absolutely blew up on YouTube, and I mean really blew up. For a while you couldn't go anywhere without seeing either dayz or Rust on your recommended page, and Minecraft, but that's probably for far different reasons. People like Markiplier and PewDiePie were playing games like dayz and Rust, while Mark was also playing other games like Minecraft and 7 Days to Die, not to mention the hundreds of other YouTubers who got their start on and still make content on survival games. Rust channels are still aplenty on YouTube, from simple guides to montages and even short films. It's truly impressive what the community has done, and it's paid off. Their community is still thriving to this day. Other noteworthy games like Don't Starve and The Forest also wouldn't have gotten as popular as they are today without YouTube, with both of those games without a doubt being worthy of their recognition as they are both amazing games. YouTube has also helped people make sure they don't waste their money and are aware of potentially scummy developers. So yes, without further ado, let's get into why these scummy developers killed this genre and how it put a stain on the reputation of survival games forever. One of, if not the most infamous examples of greedy survival game developers would without a doubt have to be codehatch. Codehatch had made two major games, those being Starforge and Reign of Kings, in which case we'll start with Starforge as that is considered to be the biggest disappointment of the two. Starforge was a game entirely funded by an Indiegogo campaign in which the developers had raised $135,000 and yet the game was still garbage when it released. It looked horrible, it ran horribly, and worst of all, the game just wasn't fun. The game was hyped up to be a combination of both Halo and Minecraft. It would feature sandbox building and all the things that you typically hear from these types of devs about these types of games. What happened exactly? Well, the game was sold as a lot less than advertised. The digging mechanics and infinitely generated terrain that had been advertised in the game were taken out because they didn't work, just like a majority of the game. With the game in the horrible state it was in, the devs had decided to release it in early access anyways, and that obviously had upset the community because they were still waiting for the mountain of promises codehatch had yet to deliver upon. Even after hiring a community manager, communication with the community did not improve because he was unable to get information from the team he was working for, and he would ultimately be fired and replaced with someone in-house. They would release more updates, however the game had no goals or things to work for and no identity. The game also still didn't work, period, and this would ultimately lead to the game's death. The game was being rushed along because the budget was running short, the game never reached what was promised, and while they kept adding more and more items and game modes, the base game was still horribly unoptimized. The devs would later release the game into 1.0 and would never touch it again, still leaving the game up on Steam too, trying to rake in whatever cash they could. Their second survival game outing, Reign of Kings, was meant to be a medieval survival game with PvP mechanics similar to Rust in a sense that you were supposed to go and raid other people's bases and use those resources in order to make yourself stronger and go fight more people. People were still incredibly iffy because of what had happened with Starforge, but they were willing to give this new game a try and willing to give codehatch another chance. The game had shown a bunch of potential and promise at first, and initially it seemed like codehatch had learned their lesson, but this would later turn out to be quite the opposite, as for a while they were releasing updates and adding new things to the game, and the devs were excited about the game's progress. However, eventually this excitement and energy would dissipate, and the updates would slow down drastically and were basically just bug fixes, with the devs eventually just abandoning the game yet again. Despite the fact the game was performing well and the players were enjoying it, codehatch still pulled the plug on it anyways. If you want more information on these two games, I will once again link Robokast's video on the fall of these two games in the description below. Go check it out. They're very well put together videos and they're very insightful into these two games, development, and the fall of them. But anyways, back to the video. Following the atrocity that was these two games, more and more low-quality survival games would be released with the sole premise of making a quick buck, and with Rust declining in popularity, with the same thing going for Minecraft and dayz, it seemed like survival games were on the decline, and honestly they were. These games still had their communities, but when survival games like hurtworld and Nether, these games with so much potential, were being hyped up and having these developers make horrible decisions and basically abandon the games, people lost interest in this genre of games. Fast forward to the present day, and survival games, while still somewhat relevant, are nowhere near as big as they used to be. dayz is rarely ever mentioned anymore, Minecraft is doing incredibly well, and Rust is pretty much the only one that's still going strong. There have been quite a few diamonds in the rough though. Games like The Long Dark and The Forest are honestly great games. However, survival games will most likely never get the status they once had back. The rise of Battle Royale games have cemented this fact too, and eventually once those games die out, another trend will come along for a few years, and then we'll have another one, and it's just a cycle. However, I would say this is one of the biggest and most important eras in gaming, especially in regards to PC gaming, as these games brought many people to the platform, and through these games friendships were made along with memories. Many content creators also got their starts with these games, and because of that, these games will always hold a special place in my heart, even if most of them are dead. It just sucks that a lot of games from this time period had to get abandoned or ruined like this. So many of these games had such amazing potential. Games like Starforge had such an amazing premise, but when it came out it looked like something an 11-year-old made in Unity. That really sucks, especially when the community was willing to wait and hope things would get better, but it just didn't happen, and the devs would just fold and give up. Games like Reign of Kings or hurtworld could still be relevant today if the developers weren't just scummy and took the money and ran off, not caring about the fans whatsoever. It's funny to think about how this is carried over to now with many Battle Royale games following this same trope. A game comes out that looks promising, and then it just gets tossed to the side and abandoned after they made the money they wanted off of it and put as little effort into the game as possible. Games like these are reasons why people are so iffy about Steam's early access program, because at any point they can release the game and just run off with the money, not being obligated at all to update it or take care of it anymore. I'll miss this era in gaming, all the Rust and Nether videos I would watch and all the funny moments people would upload of them messing around with random players. It was a great time, but now I'm just stuck with the copy and pasted editing style that every current Battle Royale YouTuber uses when they make another montage for compilation. However, I am grateful it happened, and I definitely think that it was important it did. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching, as it genuinely means a lot to me. I know this video took quite a while to come out, and for that, I am sorry. I had a really hard time coming with a topic for this video, and I genuinely didn't mean for it to take this long, but the video is finally out now, and that is all that matters. I also hope you guys enjoyed the new icon and banner made by Mixtape Mate. Link to his Instagram will be in the description. He's a really talented guy with a unique style, and I thought it would be perfect for this channel. Go check it out, he makes a lot of great stuff. Commission him if you wanna, would be greatly appreciated here. And with that all the way, I want to thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a great day. I'll see you all later.